It's Valentine's Day romance with a side of carnage. Today we're talking about the new holiday-themed slasher movie that just hit theaters, Hearteyes. What's going on, my friends? Welcome again to the Cobwebs channel. My name is Daniel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and happy Valentine's Day season. So, I was very excited to go see this movie. Now, I love holiday-themed slasher films. Just very excited to get to go see one in theaters. We don't get a ton of theatrical slasher films, although definitely more now than even like 10 years ago, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, I love holiday-themed slasher films. This used to be a really common experience back in the 80s, as everybody was copying Halloween, Friday the 13th. So you got movies like April Fool's Day, New Year's Evil, and of course, My Bloody Valentine. My Bloody Valentine in particular is one of my favorite horror films of all time. I think it's incredible. So a new Valentine's Day slasher that's not Valentine, which is not one of my favorite movies of all time. I was very excited about this. So Hearteyes is directed by Josh Rubin, and it stars Olivia Holt, Mason Gooding, Jordana Brewster, and Devin Sawa. When the Hearteyes killer strikes Seattle, a pair of coworkers pulling overtime on Valentine's Day are mistaken for a couple by the elusive couple hunting killer. Now they must spend the most romantic night of the year running for their lives. So, jumping into this spoiler-free review, the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that this movie is being marketed as a rom-com horror movie, a rom-com slasher, and really being marketed as like a perfect date movie. And if you are perplexed by that, and you're thinking like, okay, is this really going to be like a rom-com, or is there just a little bit of rom-com elements, and it's mostly a horror movie, or vice versa? What I am so happy to report about this movie is it is 100% rom-com and 100% slasher. And it works perfectly as both those things and does them at the same time and blends these two things seamlessly. I was so impressed by this. One, just because I think it's impressive that they pulled it off, but two, that they did it, that they were able to do it. I actually saw Josh Rubin in an interview say, I can't believe they let us make this.
I'm just shocked that they let us make it.
By the way, Josh Rubin, I really like him. My favorite thing I've seen him do is actually star in A Wounded Fawn, which is one of my favorite horror movies of the 2020s so far. But he's also directed movies like Werewolves Within, which is very fun, and Scare Me, which I haven't seen yet, but I was recently talking to a friend who said that it's really good. So I've got to catch up with that. But just between this and Werewolves Within, I mean, Hearteyes shows his growth as a filmmaker, undoubtedly. But when I did see that interview with him that I just referenced, he talked about how he loves Nora Ephron movies. He loves Sleepless in Seattle. He is a rom-com fan, and he genuinely wanted to make one that was just also a slasher film, and he did it. I think this is remarkable. Let me get on a soapbox real quick. There's a lot of things that people say these days about movies today when they're trying to disparage modern movies. Movies today always do this, or they never do this, or there's no new ideas, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of generalizations that people say about movies today they're a lot of times wrong, and I think they're a byproduct of people mostly just watching Marvel movies and stuff like Marvel movies and not really venturing out to see what else is out there, so they get an idea in their head that everything today is like Marvel movies. That is not the case. But one thing that I do think is the case about modern movies is there's less romance. There's just less romance in movies today. Have you noticed this? Like, it used to be that if you went to see, say, an action blockbuster in theaters, it was a given that there would be a romantic element in the film. And there almost never is now. Whenever there is, it's kind of remarkable. Like it happened with Twisters last year, and it was nice to see. But even in that movie, there's like no on-screen kiss. So romance and also sexuality as a whole, but more so romance, has been decreased dramatically in movies today. I do not know why this is the case, because I don't think it's a change in what audiences want. I don't necessarily know if men like this change, if men really want less romance in movies. I personally don't. I like romance in movies, and I know a lot of other guys do too. A lot of guys like rom-coms. They may not all admit it, but they do. I do. I actually really enjoy the rom-com genre. I love watching them with my wife. We have a great time when we do. So, but I don't know if guys like this change, but I can't imagine that women do, because things that are absolutely exploding in popularity right now with women is romance novels, for one thing. I mean, my wife has multiple bookshelves of romance novels that look like this. You go into pretty much any store, they're selling them. My wife is part of a romance book club, and they have a ton of members. It seems like it's exploding in popularity. And then a couple other things that women seem to be loving today are K-dramas and Hallmark movies, both things that are entirely centered around romance. So it almost seems like movies, mainstream movies, are just not catering a desire for romantic fiction. So people are going to other things. They're going to TV, they're going to Korea, they're going to books. And I think Hearteyes is so remarkable because it is a mainstream horror movie, like not even just a mainstream movie in general, but a mainstream horror movie that is unabashedly, embarrassingly romantic. It is all in on the rom-com genre. It has a lot of the tropes of the genre, and there's no like ironic distance. There's no winking at the camera. There's no, oh, we know this is silly and cheesy, whatever. It's sincere. It's very sincerely a romance film. And I think that's like incredible. So let's talk about our romantic leads. First of all, we've got Olivia Holt, who is an actress I wasn't super familiar with, but she was in Totally Killer, which was another fun comedic slasher film that came out. I believe it was last year. And she's good in this movie. She really has to be like the more serious, more dramatic, more emotional weight bearing character. And she's great. Really liked her. The male lead is Mason Gooding, who I was much more familiar with. I mean, he was in Booksmart a few years ago, but I think most people know him from the Scream franchise. He's in Scream 5 and 6. He's really been popping off as a rising star, and I would say Hearteyes showcases him as a star more than anything else he has ever done before. I think he is fantastic in this movie. I think another thing that is true about movies today is there seem to be less movie stars. I mean, a lot of people have talked about how movie stars are definitely less important today. The reason people go see movies is less so because of an actor than it's ever been before. But also a lot of actors today, especially the younger generation, they don't feel like movie stars. Like actors like Timothée Chalamet pop much more, which is interesting to me. Not saying anything against him, but he's different than movie stars of the past for sure. But I think Mason Gooding feels like an old-fashioned movie star. He has that star charisma. Olivia Holt, I don't think so. I think she's a good actor. We have a lot of good actors today, but we have a lot less stars. And I think Mason Gooding is one. He gets, well, Olivia Holt has to be the more like emotionally weighted character, more serious. Mason Gooding is a little bit more free to be like a charm factory. So I acknowledge that he definitely has the role that it seems like it's easier to pop off with his charisma, with his charm, but he does it incredibly. And it feels like if he was around in the 90s, he would have been a staple in rom-coms. Like he just would have been a great romantic lead in a lot of movies. They just make a lot less movies like that today. So there's less opportunity. It's another reason I worry about movie stars today. Like when they do pop off, there's less for them to do now than there was in decades past. But the two of them are great together. They have so much chemistry. They are fun to watch. They have more dramatic moments together that they really hit. Great rom-com leads. As the detectives investigating the Hearteyes killer, it's actually Jordana Brewster and Devon Sawa, and they are very fun in this. They have hilarious names, which I would not dream of spoiling for you. Don't look up the IMDb cast list, just experience their names organically. And also, an actress named Gigi Zambado is Olivia Holt's friend in this, and she's very fun, very funny. She's got a speech towards the end of the movie that is hilarious. But now that we've spent sufficient time on the rom-com element, which is the element of the movie that I think makes it so remarkable, but also makes me worry about its future status with horror fans. I don't know how this movie is going to be received. But let's talk about the slasher elements. Does it decrease the slasher elements, tone them down in favor of being a rom-com and being appealing to more of a mass audience? No, I'm telling you, I told you at the beginning of this review, 100% rom-com, 100% slasher. It 100% works as a slasher film. First of all, the killer, the Hearteyes killer, who I'm sure you've seen in the trailer, seen a little bit of in the poster. He is fantastic. He has an incredible design. This is one of my favorite modern slasher designs in, modern movies. I just said modern, so that makes sense. I just adore the way he looks, his mask, the heart eyes, the kind of roughly painted on smile on his face. And when he is in action, it is so good. The way Josh Rubin and all the behind the scenes folks pull that off with the sound design, the way they shoot him. I mean, he is absolutely vicious here. All the sounds of the knife and the slashing, I think the sound design is fantastic in this movie. And he just really feels like an absolutely brutal, vicious, incredibly efficient serial killer. While Art the Clown might play with you a little more, play with your guts, take his time, the Hearteyes comes in and is incredibly efficient at slashing you up as good and quickly as he can. And I thought he was fantastic. I love this killer. I would love to see sequels and see more from Hearteyes. He deserves a NECA figure. Let's merchandise this slasher killer like the old days. Just so good. The kills, the gore, they are solid. I don't know if there's a kill in here that's going to be hailed as an all-timer, In a Violent Nature had, like the Terrifier movies often have. I don't know if we've quite got that here, but I think we come fairly close. There's definitely some good kills, some good gore. In fact, there is one moment in the movie, which I'm not going to spoil, but I'm just going to say it perfectly embodies what I mean by it's total rom-com and slasher at the same time, where it's a very sweet, romantic bonding moment between our leads that also involves a lot of gore. I can't imagine that is easy to pull off. And I don't know if that's going to work for everybody, but it worked for me. I thought that was great. I'm just, again, like Josh Rubin said, I can't believe they let him make this.
I'm just shocked that they let us make it.
Before hitting record on this video, I wanted to have the cast list in front of me and everything. So I did a quick Google search of the movie. And the first thing that came up was an article that said, Hearteyes does the slasher killer reveal right. So right now it's kind of out there that there is a killer reveal. So I don't know if people consider that a spoiler, just the fact that, it is a mystery. There is a killer reveal. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit here. No specific spoilers, of course. But did I like the killer reveal? Did I think it worked? I thought it was okay. It was actually probably my least favorite element of the film. The fact that there was a killer reveal at all, I'm getting a little bit over this trope. I realize most slasher films, there are murder mysteries. We reveal who the killer is. It's Friday the 13th. But these days, it really just feels like Scream. It feels like kind of every modern slasher movie is trying to be Scream, whether it's Thanksgiving or Hearteyes. It really just feels like we're riffing on Scream. And I don't want every slasher film to be Scream. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by no killer reveal? I mean that the killer is just a killer. They are just a slasher character. And all of the most, other than Ghostface, all of the most iconic slasher killers are that. They are Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and today, Art the Clown, and Johnny in a Violent Nature too. I kind of like that better, to be honest. I want just a killer character. I think that's great, and it's more easy to sequelize too. They can just rise from the dead. They can be kind of supernatural. I love that stuff. The Scream method of having be normal people who get unmasked, it's good, it's fine, and Scream didn't invent it. Of course, there's a lot of slasher films in the past that did it as well, a lot. It was common in the 80s too, so I'm not against it, but I would like more just pure slasher characters. I'm just asking for a little more. I'm asking for a little more balance. But despite that, I do think this movie sticks the landing. It is intense at the end. It is gory, and it is unabashedly, embarrassingly romantic, all the way to the end. I'm telling you, the sincerity of the romance never fades. And that's not remarkable in the past, but it's remarkable now. And it is the reason that I worry about how this movie is going to be received. I don't know what its status is going to be with horror fans. I do think it's really cool that this year we got two romantic Valentine's Day themed slasher, well, not necessarily slasher films, but horror films with Hearteyes and Companion. I pretty much guarantee you Companion is going to be the movie that ends up being better received, more embraced by horror fans. Companion is really good. I really liked it, but it is more a normal modern movie. It is a movie you would expect in 2025. In a lot of ways, it's a movie you would expect, and therefore I think less people are going to be thrown off by it. But Hearteyes, I think it's special. It's the kind of movie we just don't get anymore, or it's the kind of movie that doesn't really exist. I mean, there are rom-com horror films in the past, but like very few that are so unabashed about both elements at the same time. That's why I think Hearteyes is special. It's my preferred of those two movies. I embrace it. I'm excited to own it on physical media. I would love to own a NECA figure of Hearteyes. We'll see if that ever happens. And I am just a fan of Josh Rubin. I think Josh Rubin is a guy that's very aligned with me. We're both guys that love horror movies, but we love rom-coms. We're maybe more, I don't know, sensitive guys, I guess. Like, I was kind of comparing this film a little bit in my head to Christmas Bloody Christmas that came out a few years ago by Joe Begos. Kind of similar, except Christmas Bloody Christmas is like the super crass, hard partying, more focused on sex than romance kind of movie. And then Hearteyes is the soft, sweet, romantic, more focused on romance version. I don't know. I guess I'm a softie. I like that better. That I just relate to it more. I think Josh Rubin is like my guy. I'm really excited to watch more of his movies in the future. I'm really excited to watch Scare Me. If you've seen Scare Me, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. And Hearteyes is great. I highly recommend it. That's my review, but have you seen Hearteyes, or are you planning to see it? What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this and want to hang out with me more, you can check out my Wolfman review right up here. First horror film I reviewed of this year, or check out this list for a bunch of horror movie recommendations. You might enjoy that. Thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate you. Happy Valentine's Day, and I'll see you next time.